We are New Reality Awakening.
Welcome back, incredible listeners and viewers. I am Nazly De La Rosa, the host of Third Eye Talks. Welcome to this divine space, and thank you for joining me for today's conversation, which is going to be incredible. I've got a wonderful guest joining me. Her name is Kim Rappi. She is a mental wellness coach, and we're going to be talking about none other than supporting the sacred male. Hi, Kim.
Hello, Naz. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Thank you for being here. I am too. You know, on Third Eye Talks, we always talk a lot about the sacred feminine. A lot of the podcast is about supporting women through, and my listeners, without a doubt, most of the statistics, they are women. But of course, all of us have someone in our lives that we want to support through their spiritual journey. So I'm so glad to be having this conversation, and I hope that the women listening in and the men all go back and find ways to support these wonderful sacred males in their life. So Kim, before we start, tell me a little bit about how you got into your line of work, and then we'll go into talking a little bit about how we can support the sacred male.
Sure. Thank you. So I am a former therapist. I had a private practice for 10 years. I guess I'll back up just a little bit. I grew up with male cousins. I grew up with male neighbors. I have a lot of masculine energy, and I just have always had a heart for boys and men. And so in my practice, I found that to be true the same. Loved working with couples, loved working with men. I just feel like I have a special niche of being able to see the heart of a man and create a safe space for men to process their divine femininity, their feminine energy, their vulnerability. And it just feels like a very special place for me. And so I've just continued that through my work. So after leaving the medical model of therapy, I created mental wellness coaching, which allows me to use essentially the same tools that helped save my life at one point in time. And that's understanding someone's story, using the tool called the Enneagram, and then teaching nervous system regulation. And so I work primarily in the entertainment industry, and I work with entrepreneurs and executives as well. But I work with a lot of men, helping them tap into their truest desires, creating that safe space for them to be vulnerable and to learn about themselves, which essentially helps them heal their relationships, their families, and ultimately it impacts the world.
I love that. That is such a beautiful mission. And I love your background and how you're bringing that and tailoring specifically to men and boys, because they really need the support so much in so many ways. And it's harder a lot of times for them to say, hey, I'm struggling and I need support. So I guess I want to start there. Based on your line of work, what do you think is the main difference between men and women and how they navigate mental health and mental health wellness?
Sure. So the main difference, I believe, is that our social conditioning teaches boys from a very early age to shut that side of themselves down. And so the social conditioning in, we'll say the unhealthiest spaces say, don't act like a girl, calling boys things, derogatory towards women, calling them, just outside of their masculinity, teaching them that it's not okay and it's not safe, it's not manly, it's not masculine to express your emotions. And so this conditioning starts at a very early age. And so it gets shut down. And, we condition these boys to grow up to be men. And then we, often as women or in relationship with men, are frustrated because we need their protection, but we also need their heart.
Mm, mm. That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. And you're right. Unfortunately, I feel like it's getting better in terms of where parents now are allowing their boys, their children to say more, to speak up more, to express their feelings a little bit more, but it is still very a very big difference between the way we raise boys and the way we raise girls, especially when it comes to their emotional expression and landscape. So, what can we do as women to begin to support men, boys we're raising, husbands, fathers? How can we begin to support them in this journey that they're in?
Ooh, I would say hands down, number one, please, please, please stop referring to your husband as a child.
Mm,
We as women have been conditioned as well to be mothering, and men need partners. They need cheerleaders, they need advocates, and they need safe spaces. And so we as women have been conditioned, we're the nurturing and we're mothering and we're feminine. And so, often, I've heard, and I correct this a lot in the work that I do, but, how many kids do you have? Well, 3, 4 if you count my husband. If we could just start there and stop saying that, because it is so disempowering to men,
mm,
and it puts us, we don't realize we're, causing harm to ourselves because it's putting us in a mothering position as opposed to a partner position.
mhm,
And so I always say, like, please, let's just stop that. We'll start there. But really seeing your partner, understanding his story from his family of origin, the specific experiences he's had in his family of origin, and also, just as importantly, what he has experienced in society, in his culture, in the world. Because I think what a lot of people, men included, that they don't understand is, while we can say society has taught them that it's not safe to express their emotions, I can't tell you how many men I've worked with who literally in their nervous system are stuck because when they were 8 on the playground, they physically learned it wasn't safe to be anything less than masculine.
mm,
And so they're carrying a physical weight in their nervous system that says, if I tell even this beautiful wife, this partner who wants nothing more than to hear his heart, his nervous system says, don't do it, because remember when we were 8, we got the snot kicked out of us.
mm,
Then they're not even connected to it. And they just push their partner away. And then their partner is hurt because they take it personal and they think it's them. So I would say really see them and really see their experience, and then be committed to not repeating those experiences,
mm,
right? Partners, any um, combination of partners, we tend to butt up and push against the very wounding that we've experienced and we don't mean to. And oftentimes it's because we've not deeply connected to the vulnerable place of, okay, you were bullied when you were 8 on the playground, and I'm going to commit my life as your partner. I will never say those things to you, and I will always be first in line to remind you of your goodness.
oh, that is so beautiful. Ah,
Mm.
you put that so beautifully. And it's
Oh,
true,
yeah.
as partners, we know the points, right? We know the wounds to kind of put our fingers in to really hurt our significant others. And you're so right that doesn't advocate, it doesn't create a safe environment for either one. And so yeah, absolutely being committed to not poking that wound. Now, how do we how do we know if that person, that man, that brother, that uncle, that father, that son is struggling with some mental health issues? What are some of the signs that we can look out for in order to be aware of them and help them when the time comes? And if the time
Yeah.
comes.
Yeah. Firstly, I would say it would benefit everybody if we all normalize the conversation of talking about mental health.
Mhm.
Or, and for men. And so as, women, if you have a male partner, to normalize that conversation, like, hey, I know what the world has done to you. And I know out there outside of our home, it isn't safe. And I respect that. It's not. But here you're safe. And so here you have me as your biggest supporter to talk about when things are hard. And then, establishing your values around that in your home, because again, it isn't safe out in the world. And so we don't want to pretend like it is, but in our home, we can create that safety. So I think normalizing the conversation around mental wellness and moving away from this idea of mental illness, because it just makes us feel broken and it's, something we can't fix.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide rates are, very high for men, especially in midlife. And so, how to identify that is pulling away from important relationships, pulling away from friendships, overworking, overextending themselves into work, overuse of drugs or alcohol or gambling or pornography or anything that they're using to numb out. Anytime we are numbing out with anything, shopping, anger, eating, anything, we're trying to not feel something. And so when we understand that and we can say, hey, I've been noticing this behavior. Are you okay? It's okay if you're not. And I'm here for you. But just noticing a change in those patterns, excessive rage, men are only given permission to have a few emotions, and anger is one of them.
Mm.
And so anger is often an expression of, unprocessed emotions. And so if they're acting out, sadly, men act out through, going outside of their relationship and going outside of their marriage. And why is that? It's because society says you are a man if you have women who want you. You're a man if you have a big shiny car and a big fancy house and a lot of money in the bank. And they're not, we don't give them permission to tap into their heart. And so if you see him chasing, hustling, grinding, and again, keep in mind, the world is saying, yeah, go, 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 do that thing, while it's literally killing them.
Hmm.
So watching those behaviors of, alcohol, drug abuse, numbing out, acting out, those types of things.
That is, I can name so many people that I've met, so many men that I've met, so many people in my own family, so many men who have like shown that behavior, right? And that chase, that hustle. So I want to touch a little bit on that in case some of the men are listening in. And of course, for the women, now you've told them some of the signs, and I'm so sure that they are going to see those things in at least some of the men in their lives, and they're going to want to help. So, this is Third Eye Talks. It's a spiritual podcast. So we do talk about like, what are we being energetically asked to do, right? So I know men, the sacred male is being asked to step away from that energy, to come from a place of secure, providing confidence, but not the over hustle. So how can we start to help men make that shift? How can we start to make them see how this thing is actually hurting them rather than helping them? And how do we help them really step into that sacred divine energy?
Yeah. So that's a big question. Um, but I have
I'm right
answers.
alone, but where does the conversation begin?
Yeah. I would say start with doing your own work,
Mhm.
because if I'm not well, I'm going to my partner and I'm seeking that through him, and I don't have the language. He doesn't even know. He can feel the expectation. I have needs. He doesn't know how to meet them, And so I would say start with doing your own work, start with your own spiritual journey, start with healing your trauma, invite him in safely into that process, let him know what you're working on. And, again, setting the table, setting your home to be a safe space, having those conversations, normalizing the conversation. I want to partner with you. I want us to be healed. I want to heal generational trauma with you. I want us to create a world that we never got to see. And I want to create that for our family, for our lineage, for our children. And creating that safe intimacy where you are partnering, you're over communicating to leave nothing unsaid, to not leave him confused, and inviting him into a softer space where he can let down his armor And if you can visualize that he is walking around with armor
Mm.
all the time, he's got his shield, he's got his, I think of like the big iron suit, he's got staff. Like, if you can visually kind of metaphorically imagine helping him feel safe enough to take that off
Mhm.
and to soften into his feminine energy, um, reminding him, I'm on your team. I am on your side. I am your biggest cheerleader. I'm your biggest supporter. I am safe. I will not use whatever you share with me. I will not use it against you.
Mhm.
I will hold it sacredly, and we are in this together. And just that invitation, that creating of safety.
Mhm.
And the other thing I would say is really important for us to understand, often as women, we put our men on that horse, right? The knight in shining armor.
Mhm.
And they know that.
Mm.
And they try really hard to fulfill that.
Mm.
And then when they fall, we annihilate them. And so we often don't give them the space to be imperfect. We don't give them the space to fall, to stumble. And then what happens is we recreate that wounding. And so if they fall short, they fall off. Again, partner, not mother.
Mhm. Mhm.
Normalize mistakes, normalize imperfections. And, I always picture like, how do I want, I want my husband to come back home, not just for me, but because it's safe for him.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. And so how do we create that environment? It's through safety. It's through connection.
Yeah.
It's through, I'm doing my work. You're not responsible for my heart.
Mhm.
I want you to have my heart,
Mhm.
but it's not your job to fix it.
Oh, that is
And when,
powerful.
yeah,
That is
because most men, they just want to make their partners happy.
yeah.
They just no idea how.
Yeah.
So don't expect them to know. They weren't taught. They weren't given the skills. They were not taught. So it's okay to teach them and
Mhm.
ask, can I teach you what would be helpful to say to me? One of the most powerful things my husband and I experienced was when I said to him, when I'm dysregulated, when I'm upset, I'm not online. I'm not thinking clearly. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to just look at me in the eyes, hold my shoulders, and tell me that I'm safe and that you're not going anywhere. Because when I dysregulated because of my trauma, I'm like, I start spinning out, right? And let me tell you, I had forgotten about that conversation. And the first time he did it,
Mhm.
it wrecked me
Ah,
in the best kind of way. I just sobbed, and then he held me, and we both healed in that moment.
yeah.
And so over communicate when you're not in conflict.
Mhm.
Tell your partner, here are the words that land with me.
Mhm.
Here's the touch that works for me.
Yeah.
Here's what doesn't work for me. Here's what hurts me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then committing, I mean, hopefully the men are doing this as well. Like, we're going through it together, but um, communicate to them because they don't know and they do want to help and they do want to make you happy. And they don't know how.
They're clueless about it. Yeah, they don't know. You haven't told them. How are they
Yeah.
supposed to know? And
Nobody told them.
it's so funny. We've been hearing this for a very long time. Your partner
Yeah.
doesn't know what you want if you don't tell them. You really have to vocalize it and you have to say, this makes me feel safe. This doesn't make me feel safe. When I'm feeling this way, this is what I need from you, not this, right? And that immediately, I love that you touch on that because I think is so true. They really, when a man loves you, he really wants to make you happy. He just probably has no idea how to do it, and he would like instructions. And the minute you give him those instructions, you've solved most of the problem, right? There's still work to do, but it definitely
Yeah.
starts with that conversation. Now, some of what you said, I think I would really love to touch on it because there's this kind of it's the era of female, right? It's this female empowerment, which I'm behind it. I love the sacred feminine.
Mhm.
I love that we're finally coming into this very empowering energy where we get to do all of these incredible things. What I don't love to see is how it comes sometimes at the mm, this idea of like we have to crush male energy, right? Like the boys don't matter, girls like empower the girls and that is heartbreaking to me Because as a spiritual person and as a mother of boys, I'm a full boy mom. It breaks my heart. It's almost like we cannot rise unless we're crushing them. You kind of touched on that earlier, right? Touching those wounds and not and belittling them and all of this energy that we put because it makes us, it's the rise of female. So how do we stay empowered as women without crushing the sacred male spirit?
Mhm.
What are some ways that we can do that?
Yeah, and I wanna come back to the importance of doing your own work,
Mhm.
right? Because again, we can rise without touching our wounds,
Mhm.
right? And then we just step on each other and we step on men and we, like you said, crush that energy.
Mhm.
But if you're really truly healing your story and healing your trauma and working on your generational trauma, you are more self-aware. You're able to communicate what it is that you need. And you are just, naturally creating that environment and inviting men into that. And you're able to see men for who they really are, not what society has painted them to be.
Mhm.
Right? If you think about what society has done, it's, through, all the misogyny and the patriarchy, like we've built them up, made them dangerous. And instead of healing and fixing that, now we're just going to shut it all down. We all lose when that happens.
Mhm.
And so if we are doing our work from a place of integration and wellness and wholeness, then we are able to see men have that compassion and inviting them into that healing process as well. Because in a heterosexual relationship, when a man and a woman are both mentally well, they are unstoppable.
Mhm.
They are unstoppable. Like, it doesn't have to be, "I'm bigger, I'm, more important, I need more of the space and the energy." It's like, "Look what we can do."
Mm.
And then, to me, I just see, like, the lineage, right? The legacy that you're leaving for your family
Mhm.
of all of the stuff that you're healing, it's literally world changing.
Oh, yes.
So start with your work, inviting in your men. And part of that is, I mean, I don't want to skip over the importance of having to call out toxic masculinity and toxic behavior. It is a real thing.
Mhm.
But shaking our finger and stomping our feet isn't going to change that.
Mhm.
It's either going to shut them down or make them get even more bigger and more toxic.
Yes.
And
And we're
so,
starting to see some of that where men are fighting back a little bit and saying, "Hey, we're if you're gonna beat us up, what's the point of being with you? We come to you as a home for this sacred feminine energy that you provide," and they're kind of fighting that back a little bit. I've started to see that backlash, and I think it's sad because, like you said, when both of you heal, you're both sacred, and you both are able to bring this beautiful energy to the table, and you can do incredible things. So I agree with you. It starts with us. Let's heal ourselves. Let's be aware of the signs, right? In the men in our lives. Let's open up a safe space for them to express themselves, to help them kind of take off that armor. Like you said, hey, you're home, take the armor off. Let's talk about it. What are things like for you, and how can I help you? And that actually creates a much better environment and energy. Let's not forget our sacred male, the sacred males in our lives, and let's bring them into our world and help them out. So, Kim, I love this conversation with you today. Again, I love the work that you're doing. I think it's so important. Tell us a little bit more and tell me a little bit more and the audience more about where we can find you and how we can work with you.
sure. Thank you so much. I do want to say one last thing that I'm hoping is helpful for both men and women. As you commit to doing this work, imagine just your home being sacred, right? The spiritual journey is very private and intimate and different for everyone. And society is the loudest and they have all the rules. Everybody outside of you has all the rules and all the answers and, all the things, all the knowing of how you should do your life. It's really important that you both learn how to block those voices out and to come back into your own divine journey, regardless of what society says.
Mm.
So Just wanted to end with that. So yeah, thanks. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. My website is my name, kimrappage.com. I do Enneagram strategy sessions. And for my coaching, I do intensives. So working with artists and entrepreneurs, often they don't have, the schedule for Thursdays at 4. And so it's an all-day intensive where we go through your story, your wounding, your Enneagram, teaching you things like the window of tolerance, how to regulate your nervous system. And I do that for individuals and couples and groups, whether it's companies or a band or whatever, that might be. And I have a podcast called The Work of Warriors, where we talk about mental wellness for artists. And I just released my first masterclass, which is Welcome Back Warrior, and it's for artists, where we talk about the 4 pillars of mental wellness. And so, I'm pretty much all over the place and happy to help and answer any questions. So,
well, Kim, you are incredible. Thank you so much for what you're doing to help not just the sacred male, but also artists, which are a group that oftentimes gets overlooked when it comes to this area. So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think it's beautiful. And for my listeners and viewers, go and check out Kim on Instagram. Kim, what's your handle on Instagram?
It's just my name, Kim Rappi.
Okay, so Kim Rappi, I will put that in the show notes, and I'll put a link to Kim's Instagram and her website so you can go and check her out. And I'm going to reach out about the Enneagram because I just found out mine and I had no idea. I had never done, I'd heard about it, but I had never done my own Enneagram. And now someone sent me a quiz and I've spiraled into what it means. And so
welcome to the club.
I'll be reaching out about that. So thank you, Kim, so much for coming on to Third Eye Talks and for talking to us about this beautiful topic. And to my listeners and viewers, I'll see you next time on Third Eye Talks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep awakening with us at newrealitytv.com, where there's one truth and many paths.